Today I want to show you my spiderweb quilt. I started this quilt a long time ago as a practice block to see if I could make an optical illusion quilt that I saw in the book of red and white quilts. And it was just a fun practice piece for me. During the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge in December, I made this quilt sandwich, but I didn't have enough time to finish the quilt. So this week I went ahead and finished this quilt. Let me show you how I turned this practice block and quilt sandwich into this stunning quilt. I'm also going to give you some tips on beginner quilting, things that I learned as I was a beginner quilter and things that made me feel more comfortable with quilting my own quilts. Hello, welcome to Quilting Color. My name is Shalina. I post quilting videos on this channel. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Let's get started. Here's the quilt that we sandwiched earlier. Here's a spider web that was ready earlier. Here's some fabric for applique. I think it's close enough to the right color. Here's the pattern I've chosen. I think I'm going to use this little tiny spray. Because I think this one is nice, but maybe it's too big for the space. Now I'm going to press this to the fabric and cut out these shapes. Did notice that this fabric tends to get really red when it's hot, but it works out okay at the end. so that it'll look like this. Maybe going down further might make it look better. Unless I make this a little farther up and put something else at the bottom, I could put a kind of word on the bottom. Think of what the word would be though. Spiderweb. Spiderwebs are good luck. Red and white. If I had a word of the year, I could use that. Not really. Usually I have a word that I try to focus on every year. Maybe I could come up with a word this year. This one I kind of abandoned because it's not going all the way to the end. You can see it's a part missing. So I thought maybe I can trace this, find a different part of the fabric that might fit completely. Could have just added another little tiny piece here, but since we had extra fabric, I thought I'd just use this one instead. Okay, so, and if you're happy with this, I think I am. Yep, commit. I will peel off the fusible from the back. keeping as much of the fusible intact as possible. This one looked like it was a little bit used before, so it's not quite as good as it could be. I think it'll be close enough, especially once we especially once we secure it with the stitching. That was the neatest one. Okay. I think that looks even enough to me. So I'm going to go ahead and fuse down the applique. And then I think I can use this extra fusible. No, I don't need it. I was thinking about fusing this big piece down, but I think it'll be fine. I can just sew it. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and fuse that down, and then we'll think about a word or something to put here. I have to decide how far up I want this to go. I think maybe if I'm putting a word here, I'll need a little bit more space. Okay, I can move this up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to the iron now. At the ironing station, I know there'll be shadows here. It's dark outside now. If I move this up a little bit, I think I'll be happier, because that way there'll be room for lettering at the bottom. Distance. I'm getting a ruler to make sure that this is even from the top. I think it is. Oops. Okay, so I need to move this a little bit like this. And these should match on the same point, and they're not exactly. So this needs to go up a little bit. This is about 1/2 inch. This is about close enough to 1/2 inch. This is 1/2 inch, and this is 1/2 inch. And what do we say? This is 1, 2, 3 inches. 1, 2, 3. This needs to come down a little bit. Over a little bit. But they will lighten up. here to secure the applique. Okay, that looks good. So now I have room to write a word down here. Now I just gotta think of a word. So I decided that I did not want the spider web to be centered on the quilt. And so now I've chosen this location for it. I've gone ahead and fused some applique on the corners of the spider web block. And so now we have the space at the bottom. And I was thinking of words to put on here. I just think like a one word would be kind of nice to have on the quilt. And I thought about things that would go with web. So web of deception. I don't know if I want a quilt that says deception on it. Another option I could have is web of intrigue. That sounded like an interesting word to use. It's intriguing. But I'm not really sure if intrigue would be a word that I would want. And so what I did was I put web of in Google to see what choices that would give me. And web of life is something that showed up. And I like that word because it's shorter than the other words are. So I pulled up a website that said web of life. And on that, right on that page, there was a quotation that I really liked. And it said, "Men did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we also do to ourselves." And it's a quotation that's adapted from Chief Seattle, and I really like that. So I went to Canva, and I found a font that I really like. And so here it is. This one font is called Kaftus, Kaftus. Hopefully nobody will try to ask me to explain it because really there's not a lot of explanation to it. But I like the way the F looks. This is a really pretty font. And so what I'm going to do is to put this on fusible. I just have to remember to make sure that I need to reverse these letters so that I can put them on the fusible because they'll be on the back of the fabric and we want the letters to look like this when we're finished. So I already have the fabric, that's this fabric here that I'm going to use. I'm just going to put that on the fusible. And again, the heat is making the fabric darker, but as you saw with the applique, once the fabric cools, it's fine. I'm not sure if this is a bad batch of Feasible or if it's just really old, but you can see that the webbing isn't all the way secure here, but I think it's close enough. And we'll secure it down with stitches, so it'll be fine. So I don't like to buy Feasible in bulk. Buy a small batch at a time so that if there is a problem with the Feasible, I'm not stuck with a whole bolt of it. And also, if it is a humidity problem, something like that, then it's something that I can avoid having a whole bolt that has Feasible problems. Pretty good. I think I'll be happy with this quilt with life written on it. So I'll go ahead and fuse this down, and then I'll just have to stitch all of the applique and also the spiderweb down. This is an over-the-door ironing board, and eventually I'll switch out to a different board, but for now this works. I want to give you a quick look at what this quilt looks like now. So the quilt is already sandwiched and put together. The applique has been fused on. So it's a simple matter of securing the applique and then doing any additional quilting that I feel like quilting at the time. If you're a beginning quilter, I recommend that you do stitching like this where you don't have to cross over any lines. When I first started doing any straight line quilting, I wound up with like bumps in the corners when I was trying to have intersections like this. So just something like this pattern where you're just going in one direction all the time just makes it easier where you don't have any intersecting lines. That way you don't have like problems with things bunching up on you. Another thing I recommend, especially if you're free motion quilting and learning how to do that, is that you work on motifs, on separate motifs rather than some continuous line. This way, if there's any looseness or any bumps, if you haven't properly sandwiched the quilt, all the extra looseness will just kind of get hidden up in the extra parts of the quilt that are not quilted. Another thing is that when you're doing free motion quilting, you get to decide what rules you make, right? So if you don't get as close to the edge as you would like, you can go ahead and go back over it. And that's a rule for your quilt. So as long as you keep using that rule for your own quilt, it's fine. Another recommendation is just to use the same color thread. So I'm using red on red so that quilting will not show very much anyway. So when you wash the quilt, it'll be mostly the texture that'll show and not the stitching lines. I secured the spider web with buttonhole stitch, and then I added some applique pieces from another book of quilting designs. I added the word life using a font that I really liked on Canva. And I combine the quilting and the applique of everything at the same time. Let me show you the back. Here's the quilt. And here's the back. I finished off this quilt for the Dust Off an Old Quilt Book blog hop, and I actually dusted off 2 books for this quilt. I hope that you enjoyed watching me make this quilt and that it inspired you to make your next quilt. I hope that these tips that I gave you are helpful. I'll post a link to the 15 Minutes to Quilt challenge where I worked on this quilt last time in case you missed that. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and I'll see you in the next video.